Hey everyone, welcome to the Facebook Live. I've got Anae, who's a member of the Onlinepethealth team, on with me today. This is her second Facebook Live, and we're hoping to get it on virtually every single month. She's getting more and more brave, aren't you, Anae?
I am, yes, but it's still nerve-wracking.
Thanks for coming online with me. We're going to be chatting today about mobile clinics. And I've actually done a podcast about this before, but we was more really focused, I think, on small animals. So this we really want to focus on equine practitioners and talk about the pros and the cons and just what you can do just to improve your clinic. Try and get sort of referrals, how you can use it with social media. We've got a few things that we want to chat about, as well as some questions from the community. I'm going to keep chatting until we've got some people online. Guys, can you give us some thumbs up and some hearts? We just want to see, or just a comment there just to say that you can hear us. Audio is always a problem with these Facebook Lives. So we don't want to chat for half an hour and then at the end of it hear that no one heard us. So let's have a look, see if there are any hearts. No one coming on now. Anae, you've had a busy week so far. We have load shedding here, guys, in South Africa, and it's actually a really fancy word for power cuts. It is causing absolute havoc with us, isn't it, Anae? I mean, we have 2 hours where we have no electricity and no internet. So we're so glad that we actually could be online now today, because we were a bit worried between Anae in Pretoria and me in Cape Town whether we would have load shedding. I've got meeting, I think, at 2. And when's your next one?
This evening at 5.
Okay, so we've got time. Cool, guys. Thanks to all of you that are online. If you guys have any questions or even just comments, these Facebook Lives are really about sharing information, helping one another. So maybe if there's something that's worked for you or something that you're doing in your mobile clinic, and you have a suggestion for other people, you can post it, or if you have any questions to us, we will try our best to answer you. And I thought we'll start off by just chatting about the pros of a mobile clinic. And it's been a very long time since I've had a mobile clinic. In the very early days when I started, I was mobile. You more recently have had a mobile clinic. What are the pros for you?
Yeah, mobile clinics, I think it has a lot of advantages, but it really depends on your location. And especially when it comes to treating horses, it's, for me, a much more practical business model than having a brick and mortar clinic. I think it's very expensive to set up a proper rehab clinic for horses, and it's all about location. If you're not in the right location, you know that huge investment is going to be very hard to make back. So I think definitely the advantages of having a mobile clinic is that your startup costs are much lower. Your initial investments into equipment, into a building, etc. You don't have to have a building. You don't have to have a treadmill or a spa. Your equipment's all smaller mobile units, which is usually less expensive than bigger things that you need to install in a practice. You have mobility. So this is in terms of the location that you're at, as well as your time. And I think that's a big thing for most of us. And it's a big thing for our clients. If we can accommodate them in terms of the times that suit them best, that's a really big advantage for them. Like, we could work earlier in the mornings and later in the evenings instead of a 9 to 5 set things, which means that they can still work and make money to pay us. And it gives you the opportunity to go to events and shows and wherever you're going to get the best exposure and the best marketing without having to leave someone manning your practice, which I think for a lot of people is a problem. If you're open on Saturdays and you have a clinic, then you can't go to shows because you have clients booked, which means you've lost an opportunity to market, or you need to employ more people to be able to get that exposure. Mobile clinics have a reduced staff requirement, so you don't need someone that's cleaning. You don't need someone that's like a tech that's helping you out with different things. You don't need someone that's running certain equipment. So you definitely have a reduced staff requirement. Although as you grow, obviously getting more employees, like someone that does your accounting for you, that books your appointments for you, that helps you to organize your schedule. I think organizing your schedule to make the most of your travel and your time is probably one of the hardest things, and one of the most important things with a mobile clinic. You don't have to furnish a place or decorate it, which I think saves a lot of time and money in the beginning. And you can keep limited stock of products and inventory that you want to sell. So if you're wanting to sell some supplements or certain rehab products, boots, magnetic blankets, stuff like that, you can keep very limited stock, or you can order according to what your clients need, instead of needing to keep your shelves full, which I think is also a big capital investment advantage. And because your startup costs are lower and your running costs are a little bit lower, you don't have rental and insurance on a property, etc., you can have a bit of a lower base cost to your customer, which is also an advantage for them. Yeah. So I think those are the biggest advantages.
Yeah, do you know what I really love about it is the flexibility, and the flexibility for you as a practitioner as well as for your clients. So you mentioned your clients, that they can, because normally if they have to bring the patient to you, so let's say if they had to box the horse to you to wherever you were, that takes time, and obviously they either have to employ somebody else to do it or they need to do it themselves. So obviously we are able to go to the stables wherever they are, do the treatments, and they don't necessarily have to be there. So there are pros and cons with that. I mean, I can remember, I never did rehab in horses, but I did used to do acupuncture. So it was before my rehab days. And I remember one of the things that it was great because I could just schedule visits in when it suited me. So if I was going to a certain area, I would just say to the client, I'm coming to this area on that day. This is around about the time I'm going to go. And then, the only thing that I found is that then I wouldn't get the feedback that I often wanted. Yeah. So I would try and get hold of them, and I didn't get hold of them. And then you go to see the horse, and you don't have the feedback from the clients as to how they're moving, if they're feeling better, what they found, how were they after the last treatment, especially if there isn't that communication. So I found that a bit tricky, but I love the flexibility also for being able to go on holiday and to take leave and to take a day off, because you're scheduling your own appointments. When you have a brick and mortar practice, and this, whether it be an equine or a small animal, you've got overheads. So when you have a day off, say you take a day off that you should be seeing patients, you're less likely to do it because you know that it's a whole day that you're not earning income to be able to cover those overheads. Whereas with this mobile clinic, and I can also remember, especially when I was driving around quite a lot in Cape Town, and sort of saying to friends when I was in a certain area, like, I'm seeing 2 horses in Noordhoek. Do you want to meet me for coffee quickly, and then have a coffee with Constantia? And so I loved that. I really, really loved that. And it was such a difference for me, coming from veterinary practice where I was in the practice. And although I was mobile at stage when I was doing horse and cow work, we used to drive around quite a bit. But it was hectic, we had to get back to do operations on small animals. So we weren't stopping in for coffee, because we were working for somebody else. So I must say, for me, I really, really love that flexibility. And I think the clients do too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you build a relationship with a client, then that flexibility becomes even more of an advantage, and your communication gap becomes smaller because it becomes easier and easier to communicate with them and get feedback from them as you build a relationship. So I definitely think it's a disadvantage that you're not having your client there with you, but it's also an advantage because you have a much more relaxed horse. The less people you have in that stable, the less chit chat there is, the more relaxed and calm your patient is, the more you can achieve, the more work you can do. So they weigh each other out a little bit for me. And I must say, I lean more towards treating a horse on my own without the owner, and then just giving them a call later in the day and chatting about what I found and how they feel and everything. And clients become really good at letting you know before you see the horse as well. If you make it clear that that's your expectation, that this is how they've been feeling and what they've been doing. So I think it's really, you can overcome that communication gap. You just have to be consistent about it and proactive about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in today's day with WhatsApp, it's so much easier to message, So in my days, we were still on SMS, which shouldn't be any different. But for some reason, for me, I find WhatsApp a little bit easier. But I agree with you completely. I like, as we're talking now, I have these fond memories of these horses that I used to treat, which, you sometimes just create such a great bond with a horse and just spending time with them and, in the stable and treating them. And you can just really get on with your job if the client's not there. But the same thing, I also didn't mind if the client was there. I love to talk, so I always find things to talk to clients with. Yeah,
I find it much more stressful if I have a client there, just because I have to keep talking to them and then I can't focus on what I'm doing. So I love treating on my own. I love it. Yeah.
I think the only benefit, if the client's there, is that you can often add a lot of value to other things in the horse's lifestyle, I think especially for me from the veterinary side of things, when I was doing acupuncture, there were a lot of other things that I would discuss and get a lot of information, which you might not necessarily get on the very first time that you see them with the clients. So for me, I like to get all that other information, and sometimes you'd just be chatting and something that they'd say just in normal conversation you'd go, oh, okay, well, that might be the reason why, So sometimes you get extra information that you don't realize that you wouldn't even have thought to ask about, just something that they've said. So
yeah, definitely.
Lots of more people coming online. Thanks for joining us. If you guys have any comments or any questions about mobile clinics, this is really about sharing, guys. So if anything that you've done that has really helped you, that you want to share, please put it in the comment section and give us some likes and some little hearts, please. We'd like to just see that you guys can hear us. We just gone over now all the advantages of mobile clinics, and I think we're going to talk about the cons a little bit. There are pros and there are cons, and I think it depends on you and sort of what works best for you and your lifestyle and where you're based. So what are the cons that you found, Sinead, when you were traveling quite a lot to see horses?
Yeah, your travel expenses turn out to be, for me, they were an unexpected surprise. So vehicle maintenance and fuel costs were a massive one. And I've listed it here as cons, but essentially if you're going to have a brick and mortar practice, you're going to have expenses. They will just be different. So it's all about calculating those costs into your consultation fees and making sure that you're not disadvantaging yourself by lowering your consultation cost and then not charging additional travel. So for me, it's definitely better to say, I have the advantage of being able to have lower overheads, so I'm going to lower my consultation fee and I'm going to charge you an additional travel fee, or within a certain radius you can say, this is my consultation fee and it includes the travel cost. So it depends on what area you're in, how big of a radius you need to drive in. For me, it was massive, so I was covering like 600 kilometers in a day kind of thing, which is not economical.
No.
No. And then security, if your vehicle is stolen, that's all your equipment, that's your whole business. So that's in South Africa for us, that's a definite concern and something to think about and consider. Time limitations, I would say. So travel time can take up a big chunk of your day, and then that's time that you're not seeing patients. So you definitely need to look at limiting the amount of time that you're traveling as much as possible and optimizing the amount of time that you're treating as much as possible. So there will always have to be a give and take here because you have to travel, but it definitely limits your time. And then obviously, being without your clients, and not having that continual feedback. And as you were chatting now, Megan, I think that for performance horses, there's another aspect in that you can be adding to their exercise routine continually. You could be adding therapeutic exercises, but you can't really do that if you're not chatting to the client and really speaking to them about where they're having challenges at a more technical, higher level. So that's would be another disadvantage for me.
Yeah, when you're talking about the vehicle maintenance, I think you hit the nail on the head, is that you have expenses, So I think a lot of the time we think of a vehicle and that's something that we have. And then if there is something that breaks down, we get irritated about it. But we just have to have the mindset that these are the things that are going to happen and we need to budget for it, because this is part of our overhead, especially when we're driving a lot. Mentioning sort of time, back in the day when I was driving around, there was no such things as smartphones, and I'm really telling my age now, podcasts and WhatsApp. But I think that today, now if I think about it, if I was driving between stables, I would be listening to podcasts, the veterinary rehabilitation podcast, for those of you that are looking for a podcast, that's my one. And I would just be trying to listen to Audible books, and then try and actually send messages to clients. And WhatsApp message, the voice message is great for that when you're driving, because you can just say, just checked your horse, this and then this is what I found, this is what I suggest, let me know if you have any questions. And you can quickly then give them feedback, or pick up the phone on hands-free and actually call them and give their feedback. So I think the biggest thing is, listen, traffic is hectic, and especially when you're driving around. I don't know how you manage 600 Ks a day. But we've got apps now too, which are great, that you can actually plan your routes. You can say, I'm going here, and we have Waze. I don't know if the rest of you and the rest of the world have got Waze. I think it is an international app. But that is awesome, because it actually gives you the routes to avoid traffic. You can plug in, it tells you when to leave by. And I found one of the things that I struggled with is because when I did my equine acupuncture at that stage, then I eventually started doing my rehab. And then I had to go to other practices, and I was hiring a consulting room there. And where I really struggled was putting the two together. So having a mobile clinic and then consulting at a brick and mortar practice, because then say you booked in at 2:00, say 2:00 is your consult at the brick and mortar. And so for those of you that are in mixed practice, you probably would find this. You would be doing horses, and then you have to go and do the small animals if you're not going to the small animals house. And then you're stuck in traffic, or you go to the last stables and they can't catch the horse. The owner's not there, and the grooms are running around, and the horse is just running round and round and round, and you suddenly realizing, now time's cutting short. So I used to find that really tricky and quite stressful, because I'd be treating the horse and realizing I really got to get going soon, and then I wouldn't be able to do a proper treatment. And it wasn't really the owner's fault. The groom couldn't catch the horse. So one tip is have a big, big, big bag of carrots and make friends with the horses. Every time they come to you, you give them carrots, so that when they see you, they let you catch them. I can remember running around, really running around, trying to catch horses for hours, especially those ones where once a week I used to drive as far as Ceres, which is like a 4-hour drive from here, and then I wasn't going again for another 2 weeks, so I had to catch the horse, and desperate to catch a horse. I don't know if you've had those kind of experiences before, Anna.
Very little. I have to say, I'm laughing. Yeah, my clients are, although at least the ones that I've had have been very proactive, and the horses are usually in the stable and caught and ready for me. And I find, but I did find it very stressful when I was consulting at a small animal practice at set hours and then treating horses around the side. So my horse appointments were always flexible. So I would tell the owner, I'd probably be there at this time. I might run late because I'm seeing other animals before. So it all depends. Traveling, like you just cannot predict what's going to be happening on the road. So that worked really well for me. And what I would do is, when I leave the previous client, I'll send them a message and say I'll be there in 20 minutes, and then everything's ready when I get there. And that helped, and it helped my stress levels, that I wasn't panicking and rushing around and rushing through my clients as I went. But I did have a wonderful yard that would keep adding horses. So I would get there and I would have prepped for 4 or 5 horses, and that would be the time that I had allocated. And then he would say, oh, could you do these 2 horses extra? And then I'd be like, I have to be in practice by 12 o'clock. I don't have time to put 2 extra horses in for you. So I did have that,
because you want the new work and you want the new clients, and that's your opportunity. I tell you what I ended up doing is I ended up having small animal days, and I ended up having equine days, and that was actually better for me. I just eliminated that stress, and the days that I did small animals, I just did paperwork in the morning if I wasn't consulting, or in the middle of the day whenever I wasn't consulting, and just didn't put myself under that pressure. So that's a suggestion. And then let's chat a little bit about how you can use social media, especially if you're a mobile clinic. And because somebody was asking about, we've had lots of questions about social media and how to use social media to improve your practice. And one of the things I love about mobile clinics is that you go to such beautiful places, and so there's so many things to photograph, aren't there? And people want to hear real stories. So you can take pictures of wherever you are, say this is where I am, taking a picture. And I must say, whenever I see the equine therapists and I see their pictures, it's always so lovely for me to see the beautiful areas that they go to, and even just taking pictures of where, like, beautiful scenery with a horse in it, or you're treating a horse. I think is great to share. One of the things that I would suggest also is that if you're going to a place on a regular basis, you can mention that in your social media. Say on a Tuesday or once a week, I come to this area. And then if there are horse owners that see that post, they'll go, oh, great, you come to my area. Because sometimes they might not really know where you're from, especially in social media. I think we have followings that are sometimes international, not necessarily in our exact area. So I think pointing out that exact area and saying that you're going there might pique some interest.
I think it's really essential to have a very strong social media presence if you don't have a set practice, because you will, out of sight, out of mind. People will forget about you. So the more exposure, the more you can get in people's faces, the more they see that what you're doing, the more they'll realize there's value. And every post that they see, they'll think, maybe my horse will benefit from that. Maybe my horse could use that, until eventually they book you. So I think it's very important. And also to get the maximum amount of patients and clients from one area, from one yard or one location. How else are you going to do it? Yeah.
And I think also, because often we don't see our the owners that often, so we don't have that communication. I really think that email marketing and just contact with them on email is so important. And when I was chatting to you about being able to help them in different areas of their horse's lifestyles, maybe make some lifestyle changes. Email is a great way to educate your clients, and especially clients that you've had before and maybe you're not currently seeing their horses. If you continue just to keep in contact with them and up to date and keep educating them by email, you might send them to your blog if you've got one, but you don't even have to have a blog. You can just write an educational email teaching them something. So if you know that a group of your clients are show jumpers, you can share some information with them. And sometimes that also re-engages them to become clients again. And it's very different, when you've got a brick and mortar practice, often the people are coming in regularly and you're always seeing those owners. And it's very rare that somebody else brings a patient in. So Email is also a great way to keep contact because not everyone's on social media. And I think also with the algorithm changes on Facebook now, if you've got like 2,000 followers, let's say, or 1,000 followers, less than 2% of your followers see your posts.
Wow.
Not a lot at all. It really, really isn't. And so you you can't rely on Facebook to get new clients. You can't rely on Facebook. I see loads of these posts about we are closed over the weekend, or our phone lines are down, and I just think to myself, I hope they emailed to or SMS, because like probably 1.2% of their clients have actually seen that if they're on Facebook,
Yeah.
So just remember that, guys, that Facebook, although it's great, and it does showcase where you go and your offering and how you can help people, you do need to find other ways of communication. And the other thing is, what I love about email is that you own once you've got the email addresses and you're doing that, Facebook is in control of things. You're in control of who you email. So it's a good way to market your mobile clinic and your offerings without, that's in your control, basically.
Yeah, and just staying in people's faces so that they know you're there the whole time. Yeah, and adding value to your clients.
Yeah, and also, we mustn't underestimate the Facebook posts. Although their reach right then and there is less than 2%, if a new client does stumble upon your Facebook post, often what people will do is scroll down. So those posts often get viewed later on. So what you want to do is make sure that the posts that you're posting are really showcasing how you can help them. And I see so many people posting, and one of the trainings that I'm actually going to do, I think in 2 months' time, is on social media, because there's so many things that we post that are completely irrelevant and a waste of time, because they're not actually helping you guys get more business. Let's chat a little bit about incentives for people. Like, say, for example, you said you had somebody who said they would refer more horses to you when you went to a yard. Did you ever incentivize those people that were managing yards or people to refer clients to you, and then you maybe gave them a free consultation or something like that? Did you ever get into things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's very helpful and useful when it comes to big yards, because the trainer or the manager of the yard is constantly in touch with everyone. The trainer will tell the rider, your horse isn't looking so great. Maybe you should book a session this week. Especially if you're going to the yard on a weekly, regular basis. It can really keep those horses in top form. And if you get your trainer or your yard owner or manager or whoever the person is that's running things, if you get them on board and you give them incentive to be booking those clients for you, to continually tell their clients, maybe it's time for a session, that can really help. So because then you're not booking those patients, you're not sending 20 owners a message to say, I'm coming to the yard on Tuesday, do you want your horse treated or not? So it saves you a lot of time in organizing, and you get there, you treat your list, and you speak to the trainer about what the horse has been experiencing, what's been happening. And for different trainers, your incentive can be different, and it will also depend on you and what you're offering, what your costs are. So for me, what I did was certain areas would be different because my traveling is different, but generally, if you book 5 horses for me, I'll give you 1 free consultation. So I'll see one of their personal horses for free, and that would then cover the cost of that consultation. So I wasn't losing anything, and they were gaining something. So that worked really, really well for me.
Yeah. I think the thing is, what I want to say is, guys, I don't think ethically it's good to give kickbacks or anything like that. I would definitely not recommend that. So if somebody refers someone to you, you give them an amount of money. That's, as a vet, we're not able to do that. And I wouldn't recommend things like that, but maybe giving their clients free consultations or things that will benefit their clients. So it stands them in good stead because of the association, and they're helping out their clients, and obviously we're helping more horses. And I think we've basically covered anything. Do you guys have any questions? Is there anyone who's got a question about anything? If you guys are listening to this Facebook Live as a recording, you can still post questions, because Anae and I will come online to answer. And obviously also anyone in the community, you can answer any of the questions, because I think we all have loads of information to share with one another, because they're all in different situations. Anae, anything else you think we've missed or we haven't covered?
No, I think we're good, Shem. We've been going for quite a while.
We have, I know. You and I can talk. Anae is busy planning our next equine webinar, which is next week, right?
Yeah, we are. So it is a swimming webinar. So what are the effects of swimming, and specifically looking at the cardiovascular and respiratory system, or mostly looking at those systems and the research that's been done there with Kate Steele. So I'm quite excited. I've heard very good things about Kate Steele. This will be our first exposure to her, but I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, that sounds like it's going to be a really, really good topic. You know, at university, so I mean, I qualified as a vet in 2001. I don't think we didn't have one thing about any swimming or hydrotherapy in horses. I think we had like a 20-minute lecture about small animals, but it was never even mentioned about horses.
Yeah.
So it's something that I think a lot of vets, maybe now in vet school, they get taught about that. But I doubt it. I don't think it only what they do. I'm sure I wouldn't read about it.
I think it's difficult because you need a specialized practice to do it, and having a canine performance center that has a pool and an underwater treadmill and a land treadmill and it gets to be a lot. So I think that the offerings for that will be very limited in the equine world, but we should learn about it, and we should see how we can incorporate it into our lives. The racehorse trainers use it a lot, which should tell us something, because if they're using it and continue to use it, it's definitely yielding results for them. So in terms of performance, there's obviously an aspect to it, and we need to definitely do more research and look into how we're going to use it for rehabilitation more.
Yeah, so for those of you that are already Onlinepethealth Equine members, you guys will get automatically signed up to that webinar. And for those of you that aren't, we still have an introductory offer at $37 a month. And up until that webinar, after that webinar, we go to the full price, which is $47 a month. So guys, if you want to be an Onlinepethealth Equine member, now's the time to sign up. You will save yourself $10 every month. That's like $120 a year. And most people that become Onlinepethealth members stay Onlinepethealth members. So year after year, that's going to be loads of savings. So Anae, thanks so much for coming. I'm so glad we managed to do it without being cut off by our power cuts. Cheers, guys. Have an awesome day, and thanks for joining us. Post any questions if you have them.
Bye, guys. Great to chat.
Bye for now.